All right, mommy. So I know that you've always talked about breastfeeding within our family, and you've even made a career out of it. Why did you start to breastfeed in the first instance, and what makes you so passionate about it, even after all of these years?
Shion, you're taking me back memory train. So breastfeeding for me was by accident. It wasn't something I ever thought about when I was pregnant with you as my first child. When I was pregnant, I remember then I was in school. I was in my doing my clinicals in the university, and of course I was pregnant with you. Your dad was over here in America. Then I was in Nigeria. Because of course he's happy, he's excited about his first child. He bought everything that he could buy, to support the baby when the baby was born, from tons of diapers to even baby food. He came with a full box of baby formula because being a man, he felt that was the ideal thing to do. And he never even expected me to breastfeed because remember I was in school, so that was not even on the plate. But funny enough, when he came also with some books from the La Leche League, which I don't even know where those books are today, but he came with some La Leche League books, which I never really read before I had the baby. I remember when it was time to have the baby, we went to the hospital. I went with my books. So we had the baby, we had reverse C-section. So the goal was for me to go back to school within 2 weeks. After having the baby, I was like, okay, I have a whole human being here. I looked down, everything that they had provided. So the zeal to breastfeed came from the fact that I felt helpless, not putting anything on the table for my child. Because now, remember, then I was a student, now I am a student, but still a mom. And I feel the role of a mom is a role of responsibility. So I have that full sense of responsibility from the moment you were born, like, oh my God, I'm really responsible for this child now. So I sat back and I thought of what I could do that daddy could not do. Yes. It wasn't like a competition thing, but that was just me. Then, like, okay, I don't want this child to be born or raised and she'll grow up thinking, oh, daddy did everything to me. What did mommy do when I was a baby? So yeah, it's funny. Was it being childish? Maybe. And that was why I decided to give breastfeeding a try. Of course, I've heard breastfeeding in passing. It was normal in our culture. But for me, it wasn't something I really took notice of. It was something you saw people doing in the market. You go, there's a woman selling okra, she's breastfeeding her baby. There's a woman selling tomatoes, she's breastfeeding her baby. It wasn't the commonest thing you find amongst the elites. Let me be very candid about that then. But it was still a norm in the society. But for me, it came from the fire of, oh, I want to do what this man can. Oh, this man cannot do this. I did it. So when I told my mom that, oh, I want to try breastfeeding, she felt I was stupid. Like, oh, it's going to affect your studies. You won't graduate on time. And you know how grandma is. And I felt, no, mommy, I'm going to do this. This is my child now. I'm going to breastfeed my child. Oh, no, what's getting into Buki? I don't understand what's going on with her. My husband felt, what's your problem? You have the formula for the baby. You have someone to feed the baby while you fully concentrate on your studies. Why would you breastfeed? And I felt, well, I just want to breastfeed my child. I feel it is right. So while I was recuperating in the hospital, I started flipping through the La Leche League books, and so I never even had an idea of what they call positioning the baby, holding the baby, latch. I didn't even have any idea of that. Anyway, I put my baby to the breast, which is you.
Yay!
And yes, was it fun? No. Because 2 days after I had the baby, I had this horrible pain. I had bleeding nipples, sore nipples. I was engorged. And remember, my mom is a pediatric nurse. Now she's retired, but then, so she was there to tell me, oh, Buki, this is engorgement, but do you feel you really want to do this? With the sore nipples and bleeding nipples, my husband was like, okay, we're done. That's it. Can you now see that this is not meant for you? And I said, listen, if this is my experience, I want to believe that some other women have had the same experience. And I want to know what they did. Grandma, like mommy now, that's grandma. Like, and she said, okay, we have to relieve the engorgement first, blah, 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 and stuff like that. We have to get the milk out. I remember her going to the market to get me a pump to get the milk out. I can never forget that pump. because that pump is all those pumps that look like horn. You know, all those horns that attach to a bike.
Yes.
I can't really say that pump was useful because I just knew it was a pump, but it got zero milk out of my breast. Eventually, we had to do the warm massage and manual expression, and I can tell you today, I'm an expert in manually expressing my breast milk. So that worked. So now it remained for me to have my nipples heal, and my mom was like, you have to nurse and heal, allow the breast to heal, which I did. So I continued to nurture my child, to nurse you, and I just noticed that you started growing very well. You started, because you were like not like the biggest baby at birth, but you just started growing. I remember then my friends in school used to call me Akpotieri. Akpotieri means Ark of the Covenant. So I remember my maid, my house help at that time, will take you to school with me. You know, there's a space where you are with her, and in my little breaks from class, I step out, I breastfeed, and a lot of people felt I was not, you know, there was really something wrong with me upstairs, but I knew I was right.
Yeah.
I had a lot of sleepless nights in the first instance because remember, Daddy had to go back when you were about 2 weeks old. But he was really, really deeply concerned about my state of health and my decision to breastfeed at all, when I had, you know, everything to feed the baby and concentrate on what was important. And important this time around was my studies. But I had a habit of making sure I took your pictures every month. So we have like a studio where I normally will go through at every month. So I was taking all those monthly pictures, and I could see the changes as you started having all those fat pads on your cheek, all those chubby hands, and all you did was breastfeed. And at that time too, I was doing my pediatric posting. So now, of course, in pediatrics, you want to know the normal child versus the abnormal with the sick child. But you exemplified the normal child. So all the milestones we were learning in school were all noticed in you, like, well, what should a child do at 2 months? My mate would be like, okay, what's Oluwaseun doing now? Everybody, so if Oluwaseun could move her neck, that means that's the age for a normal child to move her neck. If Oluwaseun could do her hands like this. So you exemplified a normal child, you know, a normal growing child, infant, for my classmates.
Wow. So
you were like the laboratory child that was never in the laboratory. And after that first problem I had, within the first few days of breastfeeding, everything was smooth. I didn't even use a pump throughout the time I breastfed you. If I needed to express milk to take out with me, it had to be like using my hand. It was very quick. I could be reading a textbook and be pumping, expressing my milk at the same time. It was very, very easy. And your dad at that point could not even say anything. He was like, okay, I think it's working. So having said that, and after doing all that, when I had Oluwaseyi, which is my second child, it was no brainer for me to think of breastfeeding. Like, I did it one time that I was not a failure. I felt it was a breastfeeding success.
Would you say it was natural for you to do?
It was natural for me to do. So for Oluwaseyi, even though it was still a C-section, breastfeeding was not even something I gave a second thought. I knew from the moment I got pregnant that I was going to breastfeed my child, no matter what happened.
Wow. Because
I knew it was the best decision. And I knew I gave you the best because I could see it in you, and I can still see it in you today, that breastfeeding, you made a big difference.
Wow.
And that is why you said, I'm passionate about breastfeeding. Yes, I am. I would like all mothers to experience my kind of breastfeeding journey. And I would like them to experience the joy of breastfeeding their baby. Because breastfeeding was not just good for me. I stumbled upon breastfeeding, based on circumstances at that time. But looking back, it was the best thing that could happen to me. I experienced the bond that I could not imagine with my child. I was healthy, and of course, being a woman who had a cesarean section, my rate of recuperation was very, very fast because of all the benefits of breastfeeding that involved, all the benefits for the mother. I don't want to go into all the medical details. So I recuperated very quickly. My child was very healthy. I was very healthy. So why wouldn't I want the same for another mother? And that is why, based on my experience and now having some further education about breastfeeding, I would like to share the joy of breastfeeding to moms and support them. It might not be easy at all for some mothers, but that is why we have people like us here to educate them, to support them, to inform them, and to assist them make those decisions that might be difficult, especially when it's regards to breastfeeding their child. And if they eat all those stumbling blocks in breastfeeding, we are there to help them clear the way to make sure that breastfeeding is a success story. Did I answer your question now?
Yes, you did. I hope everyone becomes as passionate about breastfeeding as you are and as you have always been.
And lastly, yes, you said you wish everybody is as passionate as breastfeeding as I am. I did it. I was successful. I did not sit on it. And that is what I want for all mothers. We have to talk more about breastfeeding. So it's good for you. Share the news. Pass it on so that the future generation will do the same. What do you feel?
I hope so too. I really hope so.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mom.